What's up, homies? Welcome back to another video. My name is Salvador, and today what we're going to be talking about is why not to bottle up our emotions, or the negative effects of bottling up your emotions. So I hope y'all enjoy this video. Hopefully it's very helpful for you, and for somebody that really needs to see this, that they can really identify with it and make some change in their life because of it. But without further ado, let's just get straight into the video. So, bottling up your emotions. I feel like I already recorded this once. I feel like I talked in circles a lot, basically, which I'm prone to do in this video because that's just kind of my tendency. I'm a very thorough speaker, as my girlfriend calls it. But regardless, the thing that really gave me the inspiration to make this video was a friend of mine, which I'm not going to disclose too many personal details or anything, but they basically told me about a situation they were having with somebody that was close with them in their life, and ended up telling me, kind of how it made them feel and stuff like that. And basically, I was asking questions and came to the conclusion that they were kind of doing stuff to kind of distract them from the feelings that they were having from these from the feelings that they had from these interactions they had with their family. And that's basically the gist of it. But it gave me the idea for this video. So, hopefully if anybody's going through anything similar, whether it's recently or something that's happened a really long time ago, and you feel kind of like almost like nothing because of it, because I have truly experienced that too. I hope that this can give you some kind of relief. But the main idea behind, bottling up emotions in general, which obviously it's not like people think about it all the time, like, oh, I'm just going to bottle up my emotions on purpose. It's just like a natural tendency. And I think it's as a result of the natural human tendency to protect the self. That is the human nature, is self-preservation, protect the self. And that doesn't just include like severe danger. That also includes threatening feelings or negative feelings and discomfort. So this can actually manifest itself in not feeling anything at all. And that's one of the most common ways that people, that it shows up in people, I guess, because I've felt this when I've had one of my very best friends pass away. I literally didn't even cry from that for a whole month after. And this was one of my best friends. And it wasn't because I wasn't sad. I was extremely sad. It was awful, but I didn't look it on the outside because I wasn't expressing those feelings. And it wasn't like I was doing it on purpose. I was just blank. And I'm pretty sure that is a result of the natural human tendency to avoid pain and avoid discomfort of the self. And that includes emotions. So what it does is it pushes those feelings down. Sometimes it can push them down way deeper than other times, depending on how severe the event is, or the pain, or the emotions, whatever. But regardless, this is one of the ways that it manifests itself. And, you don't really see how that affects you in the moment, but it does affect you. And eventually it's going to come out. And one of my main kind of thoughts of how this kind of all works is the law of, I don't know if it's the law of matter or what it's called, because I don't know, I haven't been in school in a while, but it's that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And that's very true, and that applies in the same scenario. I know people are going to be like, oh, look at him, he's being all metaphorical. He's like it doesn't really apply, but it really does when you think about it. So let's come up with the hypothetical really quick. So say that you have a very abusive father because of the fact that, it may be as a result of his abusive father, but he's got anger problems. He's upset because of work is awful. He's got crumbling relationships around him. He's having difficulties in his marriage, whatever. And he comes home and you do something to piss him off or to upset him. So then he lets it all out on you. Well, that's not just energy that's being created by him and going to you. That's energy that has been transferred to him over years and years and years that he is bottling up and pushing down and repressing, until eventually you do something to move that bottle, and then it explodes, and he lets that energy out onto you, and then you take in that energy. So this is the basic kind of principle that I'm coming from here when I say this. You take in energy from all the things that happen in your life and happen around you. That's just kind of how we operate, but that energy does not just stay inside of you. That energy eventually needs to be transformed in some type of way. So that could be good emotions. You could get tons of compliments, and, a lot of people compliment you for something on a certain day. And because of that, you transfer that energy outwards in a very excited or happy way. You have a good day, you make a lot of jokes, you try to, you're uplifting other people. That's that positivity that's coming out of you as a result of you intaking that positivity. That's how you're choosing to transform that energy. So this energy can be transformed in a negative way, though. When it comes to negative energy, a lot of the time what people will do is they'll repress it, because like I said, this is the natural human tendency, is to protect the self. And one of the easiest and quickest ways in the moment to protect the self is to ignore and push down, because then you don't have to deal with it right now. You're just going to deal with it later. You're pushing it down, and you tighten the bottle, whatever, because you're bottling it up. But you're pushing those feelings down, and now you're bottling them up. Well, you don't feel the emotions right now. You just go to bed upset, you stare at the wall, you just get on your phone, whatever. You don't really feel anything, right? It's fine, whatever. I'm going to go to sleep. Tomorrow's, same old. I'm going to go to school, whatever. It might happen tomorrow, it might not, but there's nothing I can do about it, right? Well, wrong. So this is the very common way, which is that bottling up. But what ends up happening, you can think of this in the short term or the long term. The long term people really don't think about. But the short term is you keep repressing, and eventually you're going to explode and let all that energy out on somebody else around you or something in some kind of way. And usually if it's negative energy, that's going to explode in a destructive way, whether that's verbally destructive or physically destructive or emotionally, violent or whatever. It can come out in a very destructive way, and you let all your feelings out. You're yelling at someone, you're screaming, maybe you're even crying, and you're letting all these emotions out on another person that harms them. You may even apologize later on and be like, I don't know why, I'm sorry that happened, whatever. You don't really think about it. That's probably as a result of you pushing down your emotions. But the thing that happens in the long term that a lot of people don't think about, which is the really big danger, is if you plan on having your own family and having your own kids, what's going to happen is a lot of the times when it comes to people being abused but not directly abused, so a lot of times people don't consider verbal abuse as real verbal abuse unless it's awful, super, super, super bad, really far and on the bad spectrum. And really, you can verbally abuse people very a lot and on a consistent basis, and you not even realize it. And this happens to a lot of people, and especially kids, and they just start to see it as their norm, so they don't really take it as anything more than, just normal. It's just part of life. So you repress these feelings, you repress how it makes you feel for long periods of time, and what ends up happening? Maybe it doesn't come out right now. Maybe it doesn't even come out for a year, or 2 years, or 3, or 4, or 5. When you choose to have your own family, what's going to happen is maybe you start to see yourself becoming a little bit similar to your parent that had these verbally abusive tendencies. You start to get upset at your kids, and now the energy finally decides to transfer out, because that energy has to leave you. It doesn't just stay inside of you. The energy something has to happen to it. And this is the cycle of abuse. This is what happens to so many people, is they don't like the feeling of thinking, my dad's mean, my dad is abusive, my mom and dad are verbally abusive people to me, and, I don't like how it makes me feel. It makes me sad. It makes me feel insignificant. It makes me feel like they don't love me. They don't care about me. No one wants to face those feelings. Those are negative feelings. Who the hell wants to feel like their parents don't love them, even if they know that their parents technically do love them? No one wants to feel that their parents are harming them, because that's, again, negative feelings. The brain doesn't like that. That is attacking the self. That is attacking the mind. The brain doesn't like discomfort, so it opts for the other route, which is ignoring. And like I said, what happens is as you get older, you might even start to identify and understand why your parents felt that way. And that actually consolidates to you, I understand now. That's why they felt this way. So it's okay. And then that's the worst part of it, because then you do it to your own kids or your own family, your own friends, and the cycle of abuse continues. Because the fact that your brain doesn't want to have these negative feelings of your parents. No one really wants their parents to be abusive. No one wants to say that their parents, attacked them lots of times, even if it wasn't on purpose in many ways, and that it hurt them. They just tend to say, I understand now. It makes sense. This is part of life. When, yes, it's a part of life, but that doesn't make it okay. That doesn't mean that your parents didn't hurt you. That doesn't mean you didn't feel negatively about this as a kid and you didn't want it and you didn't like it. But a lot of people don't want to face that because they either feel it's going to make them weak. They don't want to feel and have negative opinions about their parents, because a lot of people tend to have this black and white thinking, like, if I think this way negatively about my parents, it discredits them as people. When in reality, you can have those opposing, thoughts and feelings. You can have somebody that, has done a lot for you and stuff like that, while still having done things that have really hurt you. But a lot of people don't think that way. They think one way or the other. So they tend to ignore what they're doing or say, my parent is a horrible person. There's nothing good they've ever done for me. But this is what I say when I'm talking about the long-term effects of bottling up emotions. You won't see it right now because you're not going to see it until you identify with it personally, which is going to be in the same way that your parents did to you, or, your partner did to you. This can happen with relationships too. Your emotions from relationships. This has happened to me. And it's really unfortunate and it's really frustrating, because you ask yourself, why? Why can I not just let these things go or ignore them? And it's as a result of you not dealing with them when they're happening. There's only so much you can deal with right now. Say that, my current living circumstances, I don't have the ability to talk to a ton of people about all my emotions because I'm not surrounded by people who really care about that stuff. That's going to limit me to some degree, but there are ways that you can let these emotions go. This, like I said, this is a transfer of emotions. It's not just like you take them in and they have to explode, or you take them in and they disappear. You can transfer them, and this is the good news. There's lots of different ways you can do this, and one of the healthiest ways, I should say, is communication. And this is something a lot of people don't learn because their parents, especially as men, are taught you should just ignore those feelings, just deal with them. Communication is for women. That's one thing a lot of people say, which is really immature. And I think a lot of the time it's because they're coming from the perspective of immature type of communication, which is true. That is immature. You shouldn't communicate in an immature way. And that's what tends to happen when people don't really know how to deal with their emotions other than in an explosive way. Or that's just how they learn to communicate. But you can communicate in a healthy way, which is going to be, rather than being an accusatory way, or rather than explaining your thoughts or your feelings to somebody in a way of, I feel like this, I feel like this, I feel like this, which it's important to tell them how you feel, but come from, try your best to separate yourself from let's make up a, let's make up a hypothetical. You have a specific argument with your partner and they say a couple things that really do attack you and your character, and you don't appreciate how it feels, and it really makes you upset and it bothers you. Say it's either your partner or your parent or whatever. There's some people that when you try to bring it up to them, they're going to feel attacked. They're going to feel defensive. They don't like this. This is the brain. Like I said, think about it this way. The brain does not like discomfort, and the ego is part of the self. The self is part of the brain. So what's going to happen when you try to bring up what some people do and how it makes you feel, they're going to not like the feeling of that mental confrontation of, I did something bad, I did something wrong, I did something that hurt someone else. So they're going to deflect, they're going to become defensive, they're going to stonewall or whatever it's called, and they're going to just become defensive and not agree with what you're saying and say you're wrong. So some people, it's going to be really hard to do this with. I'm not going to lie. There's going to be some people where this probably just isn't really possible. And a lot of times it's going to be the older people, the people that are from the older generation, that's a very common thing, is I'm older than you, I'm right, you're wrong, that's it, end of story. Which isn't true, but that's just kind of what they grew up knowing, and that's what they were taught. But, when you can and you have a person that's willing to listen to you about your feelings or thoughts and understand you, you need to take a step back from just how you feel about it and look at what is objective. What did they do? What did they say? Okay, now you think about, okay, these are the things that they said to me in this specific event. My partner said this, my parents said this, whatever. List that. List how it made you feel. It made me feel like my mom said that I never do anything around the house and that I'm lazy and that she just wishes that I would actually do something with my life. Hypothetically. I don't know a lot of mothers that do that, but maybe they do. Maybe a lot of them do. But regardless, say your partner says that. This is even a better one. A lot of partners really say that to other people. You're so lazy. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And you may be kind of being lazy or procrastinatory, but they attack your character. And you don't know, you want to get out how this makes you feel without making them feel like a bad person, because then they're just going to become defensive. Well, you want to write down the things that they say. This is my opinion, but write down the objective things, write down the facts, and then sit and think about how it made you feel and why, and separate those things. And then what you want to say is, when you try to have a sit-down conversation with them, you want to make sure that you use tact and you use timing. Very, very, very crucial when it comes to this sort of thing, when it comes to communication. So with communication, you want to make sure that, set and setting are taken into account. That's, if you know where that's kind of taken from, the word set and setting, it's a little bit different from that, but it's basically the same thing. Like, you want to make sure that it's an appropriate time, it's in an appropriate place. You don't want to do this in the middle of a dinner where they're in the middle of a work dinner where your partner is supposed to be really professional, and then start bringing up all these problems to them in front of the whole, that's not the good place. You want to come to do this at a time where you know that they're not really busy, where they don't have a ton of stress, and they're not going to be super emotionally reactive. The more stress someone's under and the more emotionally reactive they're going to be, the worst time it is going to be for them to, hear you out and allow you to have this kind of conversation with them. And for some people that are workaholics especially, there might almost never be a good time, and that's really unfortunate. But, if this is really what you want to try to do, you need to try your best. I'm not saying this is a guarantee, surefire way of transferring this energy, because some people, some parents, some people, partners, whatever, aren't going to listen to you no matter what you do, no matter how right you do this. And that's just part of life. But I'm going to continue. You want to find and think about the proper timing and the proper and appropriate place to bring these things up. So they're under the least amount of stress possible. They're in the least volatile state possible. So things are as calm as possible. Even, level, calm. Not up all over the place, but still. Then, in my opinion, get your list. It's better if you memorize it, because some people can kind of feel attacked if you have here's the list of things that you did, because it's what the hell? I'm being all the things that I do are being counted, or what? Obviously you're not going to be so you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong. That's not how you want to do it. What you want to do is tell them, okay, we had this conversation, we had this specific thing that happened between us, and I really felt this way. And I felt this way, and you don't want to be accusatory. This is a very crucial point. You want to say, these are the things you said, and when you said these things, this is how I felt. I'm not saying that you made me feel this way, but when you said these things, this is how it made me feel, and this is why. And you need to communicate these things. And the most important thing in the conversation is not to let your emotions get the hold of you when you start talking to them, because a lot of times people are going to become defensive, and the last thing that you want to start doing is to try and get your point across, is start to when they start to backtrack a little bit and become defensive. The last thing you want to do is go the opposite way and go towards them and start attacking them, because then they're just going to get more defensive. They're going to stop listening. It's going to become an argument. It's going to become a fight. All over. Dunzo. You're not going to get anywhere. So you want to try and be as neutral as possible, have a conversation with them, end the conversation at some point without you getting extremely, if it starts to build up a lot of tension, becomes extremely overwhelming, too much is going on, and they end up getting really upset, and it just starts to become an argument, you should cut it off there. Just be like, this conversation is not productive. I'm done with it. I'm going to walk away, whatever. But you want to try and be as still as possible, as kind of objective as possible without letting your emotions get a hold of you, because a lot of times people can deal with facts a lot better than they can with you made me feel this way, emotions, in a way, because emotions are very fluid. They're not always objective, but doing that is going to help you communicate properly. So that's the communication route. And then the other ways are a little bit easier to explain. Just for me, one of the ways is also a very physical way, working out, doing very intense exercise, running, like sprinting, doing a jog. And then from one point to one point, I'm being like, all right, I'm going to sprint as fast as I can here, and really pushing myself and trying to get these emotions out, translating this energy into my body and pushing as hard as I can. That is a really effective way of doing this as well. You don't want to be thinking like, oh, I hate my friend. I want to beat the crap out of him. And while you're doing a punching bag, maybe that's a way of getting it out. You don't want to obviously reinforce thoughts of violence onto other people in a physical way in order to get this out. But you do want to try, if you're going to do this in a physical way, usually doing intense bouts of, activity or exercise is really going to help you channel this inner feeling, this energy into physical energy and get it out. And you will usually feel relieved after. This is what happens with me after a lot of really intense runs. I feel relieved after. I feel like I got it all out. It's all good. So that's usually the other way. Communication, physical, I forget what term I use for it, but getting it out, the emotions out physically, and then, even mentally, emotionally. And one of the ways that I usually do this is listening to music that is going to make you feel the feelings that you have. And do not get this mixed up with, I'm a depressed person, so I should listen to sad music. No, don't constantly listen to music that's going to identify with how you feel on a constant basis, because it's going to reinforce that negative feeling and constantly make you feel it all the time, which is not going to help. But going to times where you are going to, excuse me if there's a shower sound about to pop on, finding times where you're going to be able to intentionally set aside time for you to get these thoughts and emotions out. Whether that means you're going to cry, whether that means you're going to scream, or you're just going to sit there and look into the distance. If you were listening to music or something, or laying there and doing things that are going to allow you to think through them, that are going to allow you to feel these feelings and get them out that way, a lot of the time that is crying, which is fine, but you want to do something like that. And crying is one of the most common ways of getting out feelings. And most people don't want to cry because they make them, they feel like you're going to be weak, especially men. They feel that if you cry, you are weak. You are not weak because you cry. Period. You just aren't. It's just a way of you expressing your feelings. If you cry about literally everything, yeah, you might be pretty sensitive, more than you need to be. But regardless, just because you cry anytime doesn't mean you're weak. If my mom and my whole family got shot and they all passed away, would I be weak because I'm crying? No. So that automatically means that I'm not weak just for crying. Some people just say, oh, you shouldn't cry over that specifically. You're weak. Everyone's going to have opinions over that. But if that's just personally your way of dealing with those emotions and translating the energy outwards to get it out, that's your way of doing it. You usually find a lot of relief. As you know, babies, when they're done crying, they usually are so tired and they just pass out. And again, like I said, I'm sorry if there's the shower's on. I'm about to wrap up this video anyway, but when you cry, it does allow you to physically kind of translate that energy outward into a way that is relieving to you. It allows you to get these intense emotions out, and that is the bottom line. When it comes to all these ways of getting your emotions out, I didn't even list all of them. There might be other ways that other people get it out, maybe through creating art, but you want to do this in an intentional and a constructive way. That is the bottom line. You want to translate this negative energy, these feelings that you are feeling, rather than bottling them up. You want to allow yourself to feel these feelings. That's the first step, is you allow yourself to feel them. And you translate that in one of the different ways that there is. You know, there's more than the ways that I just listed, but those are some of them. Some of the ways that I personally translate this energy, this negative energy that I get. But yeah, you want to do it in a constructive way, not a destructive way. And you can say, oh, well, I want to go to a rage room and break everything. Well, you could say, well, that's destructive. Well, in a way, it's constructive because you are preventing yourself from doing, harm to other people or damage property that is belonging to you or others that is going to cost actual money that is, negative. You're attacking something somebody else has rather than something that's specifically designed for you to attack it. Rather, it's like similar to like a punching bag. Like just because you're punching a punching bag doesn't mean it's destructive energy, or you're forcing that energy to go in a way that is preventing a big negative net outcome. So that would be constructive. So bottom line, you want this energy output to be constructive, not destructive. So that's pretty much all I have for y'all today. I hope y'all enjoy this video. Definitely be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed. Dang, I was really trying to stop saying that. I think it's just kind of like a muscle memory type thing. But either way, use code monkey at checkout at retaliationproject.com, as well as Get Raw Nutrition supplements. It's called getrawnutrition.com. But I got my Discord. I think it's like somewhere right here, something like that. I got my Discord now, guys. It's up. So if you want to talk to me, talk to, people in the community, people that I know, or talk to whatever, it's got channels for bodybuilding. It's got channels for psychology and stuff like relating to those matters. And just in general, if you want to kind of talk to me more and have more of a community-based type thing rather than just I'm making the videos, you're watching the videos, we can have conversations, there's advice columns in there and everything like that. So yeah, definitely feel free to join that. And hopefully we can get some good, meaningful connections, stuff like that. Be sure to check out my socials. And I hope y'all enjoyed, and I hope y'all homies had an amazing day. See y'all. Peace.